Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Iran is now declaring we didn't do it after the U.S. and other countries claimed an Iranian missile shot down a jetliner.
But a new video shows the moment when the missile actually hit the Ukrainian plane. Gary Lane has the story.
Western officials now say it's highly likely that Iran was responsible for shooting down a Ukrainian passenger airliner late Tuesday, killing all 176 people on board. The crash occurred just hours after Iran launched a barrage of missiles against U.S. air bases in Iraq. This video shows the moment the Boeing 737 was struck by a missile. An Iranian resident recorded video of the moment the plane crashed to the ground outside Tehran. Iranian media is broadcasting CCTV video that shows debris on fire streaking past the camera.
The evidence indicates that the plane was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile.
Western intelligence officials say it's likely the Iranians fired off the anti-aircraft missile because they mistook the Ukrainian passenger plane for a possible U.S. fighter jet. Iran has invited officials from Boeing, the U.S. and Canada to investigate, but the U.S. may not want Americans to go to Iran with tensions so high. Just hours after the crash, Iran had cleared all evidence of the accident from the crash zone. The black boxes have been recovered, but it remains unclear if Iran will turn them over to Western investigators. Meanwhile, back in Washington, the House passed the War Powers Resolution, which says the president must inform Congress before taking further military action against Iran. Only 3 Republicans voted for the measure, 8 Democrats against. The resolution is not law, it's non-binding, simply a sense of the House resolution that requires no presidential signature. But House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the measure has real teeth. She says Trump endangered the lives of American diplomats and service members when he ordered the strike that killed Iranian Quds Force General Qasem Soleimani.
The president to say, I inform you by reading my tweets. No, that's not the relationship that our founders had in mind.
Pelosi and other Democrat leaders are upset because the president did not inform them prior to taking action against Iran. At a rally in Toledo Thursday night, the president said he had good reason not to tell them about it.
You know, these are split-second decisions. You have to make a decision. We didn't have time to call up Nancy, who is not operating with a full deck.
The resolution passed after Trump said Soleimani was planning to blow up our embassy in Iraq. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Well, welcome to the political theater that is our government today. It just seems that everyone's posturing and campaigning, and this resolution, much like the impeachment, it really doesn't have any meaning. It's not going to go anywhere in the Senate. If they really wanted to get serious, they need to repeal the War Powers Act of 2002, and I think that has zero chance of getting even through a Democrat-controlled Congress. So all they're doing is making statements. But here's what is amazing to me is how a Iranian general, Soleimani, is now somehow being praised as some kind of wonderful hero. I don't understand this in any Western media or any political party in the West. Why in the world would you ever praise this man? Here he is. He's known to be a murderer of his own people. Go back to the Green Revolution in Iran, and he's the one who ordered snipers to start shooting on the protesters in that. On top of that, he's the architect of these various militias that have sprung up all over the Middle East, the Shia militias. And in the past few weeks, they are the ones who went after our embassy in Iraq. So it was a counterattack, if you will, to that. We're not going to allow another embassy hostage crisis like occurred back in the 1970s. So I don't get it. Why would you ever praise this guy? Why would you ever defend him or ask for advance notification from our intelligence services that we need to strike and we need to remove him from the scene before he engineers more protests, more militias, as Iran is trying to subvert the government of Iraq? Doesn't make any sense to me. And it's time to get the politics out of this so that we can actually defend our country. In other news, Iran has several ways to go after its adversaries in the Middle East. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Gordon, Iran uses militias against countries like Israel, along with U.S. interests in the Middle East. As Chris Mitchell reports, one researcher has spent years studying these groups, and he has an important message for all Americans.
Important to look at.
Philip Smythe created the Shia Militia Mapping Project, an exhaustive research effort identifying Iranian-backed Shia militias throughout the Middle East. He says they're an extension of Iranian power.
They are the spear point for the Iranians. Now, we talk about their nuclear weapon and the nuclear threat that's coming out of Iran, but this is the real nuclear weapon on the ground. This is what affects change in the region. This is what's kept dictators in power that the Iranians have wanted. For instance, Bashar al-Assad. It's the Shia militias that supported him. How do they control Lebanon? Lebanese Hezbollah.
Smythe says Qassem Soleimani masterminded these states within states and wove them throughout the region from Iran to Lebanon.
But he was a guy on the ground who knew how to build relationships. And not just that, what made him very important was how he was able to delegate to other commanders. He knew who the right people were, who was going to be ideologically loyal, who could be financially loyal.
These militia groups number as many as 200,000 and pose a threat to America's #1 ally in the Middle East, Israel.
A massive one. This is the tip of the spear for the Iranians in terms of fighting the Israelis.
He says Americans should know about these groups and care.
Well, they should care because these groups have been consistently threatening the United States and its interests in the region. And ideologically, they hold that the United States needs to not only be out of the region, but religiously speaking, they view the United States as what they call Shaitan al-Akbar, or the greatest Satan. And that's a true belief that many of the hardcore ideologues hold. That means they want to take American lives when they view it as strategically advantageous.
Based on Smythe's research, it's clear America, Israel, and the West will be dealing with these Shia groups throughout the Middle East for the foreseeable future. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thank you, Chris. Well, back here in Washington, the Supreme Court will take up a Louisiana abortion law in March that pro-life leaders believe could be used to re-examine the legal underpinnings of abortion in America. Paul Strand reports on the renewed push to overturn Roe v. Wade.
This is the first big abortion case that new Justices Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh get to weigh in on. And many are assuming they're going to give the court a conservative and maybe even pro-life majority. And some 207 lawmakers here on Capitol Hill are asking the court to use this case to reconsider the very rulings, like Roe v. Wade, that gave the nation legalized abortion nationwide.
Catherine Glenn Foster helped write the brief those lawmakers signed.
This is a case where the court can revisit the Roe v. Wade regime and should revisit that regime.
The High Court will hear a case from Louisiana that would require abortion doctors to obtain hospital admitting privileges.
Opponents of the law say it's incredibly restrictive, and it's going to make it hard for Louisiana women to get abortions there. But those who support the law say all it's basically doing is insisting that abortion doctors have admitting privileges to a local hospital in case one of their patients gets into an emergency or has medical complications.
There's this exemption for abortion. For anyone who's performing an abortion, all of a sudden the same rules don't apply. And really, it is a situation where you have an abortion business fighting for the right to abandon their patients.
Dr. Lilbach's Westminster Theological Seminary went to court against Obamacare regulations, forcing it to pay for abortion-causing contraceptives.
And they said, well, it's easy. You just have to pay $2 million a year in fines.
So off to court went the seminary and allied groups like Little Sisters of the Poor.
And it ended up going all the way to the Supreme Court.
Lilbach believes pro-life legal victories can help land blows against Roe v. Wade.
Of course, we long for the courts to say Roe v. Wade was a bad decision. You can't find abortion rights in the Constitution.
But he says it's more important that everyone keep fighting on all fronts and change the American culture.
We're moving in the right direction. And so I think our battle is one day at a time, one decision at a time, one life rescued at a time.
Until we can come to the point where we really can say that America is a pro-life nation.
Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from the Supreme Court.
And Gordon, abortion is expected to be a galvanizing issue come November.
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be a political issue, and this is a political case. At the end of the day, do I think Roe versus Wade is going to be reversed by this case? The answer is no. But can there be some protections for the health of women who are seeking abortions? Can you require that their doctors be certified at a hospital? so that if anything goes wrong, they can be immediately admitted to an emergency room so that you can quickly take care of that problem? Well, that's the question, and I predict that the court will rule in favor of women.